Make sure we're recording this here. Let's take a look at how we want to do some basics. So again, we're going to keeping a little list here. It's going to be up on the Dropbox. So you can get a sense of how to set up your data. These are just little reminders as you move forward. But take a look at that. So we check out all our data. It looks like it's in pretty good order. We've set that up in our last video. Now we're going to go over here. We're going to do insert pivot tables. We're going to create a new sheet, and now we're going to call this this new sheet rename tech. Sorry, rename. I'm going to call that tech. Let 2020 or tech 2020 say pivot. All right. Name for it. Now we can ask it some questions. Now you may have just noticed if I click out here, it disappears. You don't need to panic. You just click on this here, or if you need to, you can click, and you can, sometimes you may see it disappear. You can touch this, okay? So here, and we're going to ask the thing a couple questions. What we want to find out now is how many people have attended a training. So we're going to put type here. Sorry, we're not going to put type here. That's my mistake. We're going to put title here. All right, we're going to put title here. Now you can see all the trainings that kind of happened around that 2020, or after 2020. So we're looking really good here. And now we may want to find out, notice this is the row, and we're going to spend a little time understanding row, columns, and values. So you really pretty much always need a row, you always need a value, and sometimes you may want to use a column. All right, so we're just going to go and look at those. So we're going to now take a look at this, and we're taking a look, and we're going to say, well, what am I going to count? Well, I want to just count how many people have attended that training. You can now see it says 3,175. Right? So 65 attended Baltina's, and over here for haircut, we had 198. That gives us a good sense of what we're looking at. Now, as we look at this, you can see there's lots of different possibilities for us as we look at what are our options. And what that means is we have to consider what is our column here. And so our column here is really looking at sex here, okay? So we have sex here. And you can see that we now actually have females, and we have males, and we also have blanks. And so that's kind of good. So now we can say, well, how many people attended Baltina? Well, in this case here, we know it's 36 women and 12 men. And so that's kind of nice to know, okay? So that's really helpful. Now, notice what would happen if I want to remove something here. I just either drag it up or I unclick it here. And that really kind of then helps us kind of reset it. So we're now going to ask another set of questions. We're going to, in this case here, we're going to ask the same question, but maybe you started with gender. You said, well, I would really like to know how many people have been trained overall, okay? And that gives us the same number. See the breakdown. But now you say, well, I'd really like to see it by title. By which type? Well, just to be aware that now makes this a really long table, and it's a bit harder to read. So my suggestion is you always kind of take a look at what is your kind of your biggest item. Yeah, so in this case, it's title. And then you may want to break it out by example here, gender. Okay. So it gives us a general idea of what we're looking at. Now, you may want to play with this. And now this becomes kind of interesting, but it's a lot of detail there. And who knows, you may want even more detail. So let's say you want to say, well, that's great, but can I see how that breaks down by WordAida? And so that's a pretty easy one. You kind of just drag in prof title, and now you got the same one. By WordAida, you can ask that same information now. You even go more granular. So you can really dig deep, but also figure out what's kind of reasonable for helping you make some decisions. So that's kind of what we have here. Now, I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to give an example of how this would look like. So let's now say that's a bit too much detail. But actually what you want to do in this case, just kind of removes that title. So right now you just want to see males versus females and then how that plays out. Okay. Well, that's great, but sometimes you may want to actually see how it looks. And what I say is, this is a lot of numbers, and many of us don't spend a lot of time looking at numbers. What we ended up doing is we take a look at graphs. And so you notice here, I just clicked this pivot chart, and it's kind of nice because it now gives us some options. Column is kind of the default, and now we can click that. So what do I mean by that? We now have, I'm going to make this down here. I'm going to scoot this over here, and we'll talk a little bit later on why it's better to put it on the right than left, because you may want to ask other questions below. And but now you can actually start saying, well, that isn't that interesting. Yeah. So here in like ATJK, we actually can see we've trained more females than males. Yeah. But in RC Nagella, you can see, wow, we actually have a lot of blanks. So this is where we didn't get any information. And then here we've got like the delta, which seems to be quite low. And you can actually put your number on. You see, if you put your pointer here, you can actually, it'll tell you a little detail here. So of course you have your females, males, blanks. I won't spend much time on having how you can adjust it to some customizing. That's not the purpose of this. It's really to understand what we're doing. So you can now put, oh, well, interesting. Males, we've trained 685, yeah, on these type of trainings. And here we have how many have for blanks, and we can go through and look at each one of those. So again, what I wanted to just kind of point out in this session is you've got your axis here. Well, here, now we're on a map. Sorry, we're on a chart. You can actually see now, how it's kind of determining things, so what is our axis and what's our legends, and those are all kind of good things to know. I think you can even kind of move these around and maybe put this as sex. I don't know, I haven't played with this for a while. Either way, I would not get yourself too excited about that. It gets really strange if you start doing too many things. So again, that's one reason I say you should always think about it. Now, also notice as I'm playing with these charts, it's actually changing the actual graph, the data over here. So that, maybe you want to think differently in this case. So I'm going to, in this case here, probably went and played a little too much, but it can show me one for each one of those categories. But again, let's just kind of go back to here. I think this is what we had. Oh, no, let's just go back one more. Well, you see, there you are. So this is lots of possibilities of customizing, but also making mistakes. So again, this lesson is to kind of understand what is your, how to set up and do a basic analysis, and then what are some charts that you can do with those. So again, thank you very much, and appreciate your thing. Next one we're going to do is asking ourselves, how can we even go to another level of complexity? And again, with anything, there's always more complexities, but I just want to give you these kind of two levels. Thank you.